Welcome back to Keeping It Together, Marriage 101.
Today we have with us Juan and Monique Toucey. So, welcome to the show, and tell us how long you guys been married.
Well, first, thank y'all for having us. We've been married for about 3.5 years now.
3.5 years, that's great. That's great. So Juan, what are some of the qualities you saw in Monique and you just knew that she was the one?
Well, actually, if you want to go like way back. So, when I was 17, it was my last year before starting college. I'd already gotten accepted to UNC Chapel Hill, and I was adding everybody who was black. especially if they were girls who was going to UNC. And I saw Monique's picture and I was like, yo, she looked just like Raven Simone.
Oh,
that's my wife.
Oh, wow.
That's my wife. But I mean, that was pretty superficial because we didn't talk through college at all. I always thought she was cute, but it wasn't until after college when I really gave my life to the Lord. And I was really like, okay, I want to live right. I want to be with somebody who's also committed to that. And I knew that Monique was committed to her relationship with God. And there was a lot of girls the other girls that I thought were cute, but I knew
just something about it.
I knew that even though I was committed to the Lord, there's temptation is real, and I'm a man, and I knew that I could get them to compromise if I wanted to. But I knew Monique, she was not compromising. Nobody. And I was like, that's what I need right there. And Monique, at the time, I was like, I can't think of anybody else like Monique.
Wow, so, yeah.
That's what drew me in.
So you have something you seen in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's what happened with me and Kenny. I think you was on the bus.
I think she knows this story.
Who knows this story?
You do too well.
I know it because you told me. We were on the bus.
Uh-huh.
Well, he was on the bus, and I was walking past the bus. And he said something told me that, what?
I can change, that I was going to be the one to change her.
Yeah.
So I knew the Lord was speaking then. I wasn't in the church then, but I felt God telling me that it was something about her, like you said, the same thing, it kind of reflected on when I saw her. It was like, out of all the girls, that I, messed with or dealt with and dated, it was like just something about her that he spoke and said, she's going to be the one. And right then I knew, And then we didn't get together at that time. It was like, couple lay on down the line. I think I was.
You kept riding. Yeah, you kept riding the bus.
But not for her sake. It was just me and my brother.
Yeah, it was.
My brother rode the bus, so I rode the bus with him, and it was like
in this class.
Yeah, we just started talking.
We got in the same class.
Yeah,
the 11th grade year. Yeah, and that's when we started dating.
Oh, high school.
Passing notes in class. So he wasn't learning anything.
No.
Not at all.
I was just chasing basketball, and I think she wanted me. Her friend came to me and said that. She likes you. One of them, do you like me? Yes or no?
Oh, yes or no?
I remember that. So that was a good, yeah.
So
I think it is something that lets you know that she or he is the one. Yeah, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, great thing. I think I gained a winner now. I look at it. Even though she loved me Monday through Wednesday.
And sometimes Thursday and Friday. Yeah.
Tell us some reasons why you should not marry thinking you are going to change that person. Either one you can answer.
I think it's important to understand that when you get married, you're not marrying a half of a person, but you are a whole person and they are a whole person and you're becoming one. Yeah. And if you enter into a marriage saying, well, I'll just marry them and then we'll work on that later, I think that's very dangerous to do. Yes, because from your standpoint, you are considering that you are all together and that you're all right, and from their standpoint, they can be thinking the same thing, and so that can create a lot of friction and conflict whenever you're coming to the table saying, well, I want to change X, Y, and Z about them. They could also have those ulterior motives as well. So that's why I think the work before marriage is very important. So premarital counseling, pre-engagement counseling, whatever you think will help you the best. I think that stuff is very, very important, because a lot of times in marriage, problems can be amplified that you think could be easily solved with a ring, and it's not that way. Because marriage is a spiritual thing, and you have a spiritual connection with another person, and entering in it with the plan on changing them, that's not, it's not going to go well.
It's dangerous.
Yeah, very.
Because like you said, when you go into a marriage, it's not about changing that person. You have to change yourself. Don't work on focusing on that person. you know, you want to work on yourself and let God change that person, because it's not your responsibility to change that person, you know. And that's why a lot of people come in thinking that I can change, you know what I'm saying, you're going to change this person, going to change that person. But if you work on yourself and let God handle him or her, it'll all work out.
Right. And Martina, I don't know if you can relate or not. Sometimes Juan does things that are frustrating to me. I go pray to God like, God, can you make Juan stop doing X, Y, and Z? And then it's pointed directly back at me. And it's like, well, Monique, if you just change this or that about you, then patience. Yeah. That's a big one.
And the longer you guys are married, it's like you guys start to change together anyways. So you becoming one. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, and the Bible tells you that you become one flesh. But when you get together, you are one flesh, but then everything has to start working together. That means your mind start working together, your body, your thinking, because you guys start thinking the same way. Like me and Kenny, sometimes I'm ready to start a sentence, he can finish it. And in the beginning, it might not be like that. So it takes time. Exactly.
Yeah, it's like that stuff where they do the sand, tradition. It's like that's where the marriage is, you know, once that sand gets together in that one, you know, and that's what the body is, you know. Like sometimes I feel like when me and her, when we know we won, it's because I feel a certain way. Like you said, she knows when I feel that way, or sometimes I go somewhere and if I say I'm going anywhere, it's like I need her to, you know, I want her to be, you know what I'm saying, with me. It's like that connection, you know, because she's my ride or die, you know what I'm saying, so that's the way it is. So I know, you know what I'm saying, with that connection that makes us joint, you know what I'm saying, it's one. And that's what the marriage is, because we grow on each other, we build and learn from each other. And that's what makes it, you know what I'm saying, that connection stronger.
Right. I like that. So the next question is, how can you become a better listener in a marriage?
Well, I'll say that listening is something that we often come back to regards to how well I don't listen. And I guess I just start laying out like the stuff that I realized of like why it was difficult for me, because a lot of times Monique, she would, you know, like we're not supposed to bottle stuff up. Monique's, you know, doing her part which is just telling me, and she'll tell me something that is concerning to her or that's been bothering her, and then sometimes I would just feel attacked, and I'm like, man, what? Like, why do you think there's a problem? And what I have to what I have to practice doing is just hearing her and just getting out of my own thoughts. I wish I could actually remember the people or books that I was reading that I got all the stuff from, but I was reading a book and it got to one part about marriage and it was saying like, you and your spouse are different people. And I was like, yeah. And he just kept repeating that over and over in different ways. Like, you're two different people with two different backgrounds, with two completely different ways of thinking. And so if when I'm reacting to whatever she's saying, it's because I'm reacting to whatever she said based off of how I feel about it. But I wasn't thinking about how it was affecting Monique or how she was thinking about it. And so when I kind of just took a step back and just practiced thinking more objectively about what she was saying, that helped me listen. Yeah. And it's a work in progress, because like we're gonna have this great conversation. People gonna think we have this perfect marriage. I'm pretty sure we're gonna get in the car. Monique can say something, and I'm like, what? And I have to pump my brakes.
I was about to say that's good. I said that's good, because I'm like, I can be talking and I say, do you hear me? He was like, yeah. I'm like, no, you don't. And sometimes I want to say, repeat what I just said, because I know he's not listening. But sometimes I still want to vent. I still want to talk. So sometimes it's okay to be talking, and even though they're not listening, they're still there. Because your presence is important too. Even if their ear is not there, I know that you will sooner or later gonna say, you know, she did say that. Or later on, like, oh, you know what? Oh, I thought about something you said. Let's talk about it now. So even though it seems like they're not listening at that time, really they are. It's just giving sometimes a little bit of time to think, or a little bit of time. A little bit of time to say, okay, hey, what was that question that you had? Or what was your concern that you had?
We'll say that Monique and I have been talking about a lot. It seemed a lot recently. It's like, so Monique will be talking to me about something, and then she'll stop and go, she'll be like, what? And she said, you don't have anything to say? And I was like, Monique, you were in the middle of a thought. I thought you were going to continue talking. I was like, I didn't know I was just like supposed to have this like ready answer at the moment. So one thing I have been doing is doing my best to make sure that I'm like not just sitting next to her while she's talking to me, but actually listening to her. And sometimes I will have something to say, but I like that you brought it up that, you know, sometimes it takes time for us to process things.
So I think listening in marriage is very, very important, because you have that person there and you want to communicate with them. I mean, you stood up in front of hundreds of people probably and committed your life to that person. So you are choosing them every day to be that person that you go to for any and everything. So I think a good way to work on listening, because that's the same thing that I'm hearing from the husbands, that it's a work in progress, but I think taking time to have uninterrupted, just completely focused listening on your partner, I think that's very important. And also making sure you're not being hypocritical in that. So for example, a lot of times I'm expecting Juan to not look at TV, don't look at your phone, just look at me and talk to me.
I think
and then sometimes when Juan is talking to me, I'm listening, but I'm on my phone.
Yeah.
And so I'm catching myself being hypocritical in that aspect. But overall, it is very important to, like, if you have trouble retaining the information or really hearing what the other person has to say, just make the intention to put everything away and just sit and listen. And another thing to that will help with listening is don't listen to respond, listen to just hear. Because a lot of times we miss what people are saying because we're so busy, like, I'm going to say that to that, I'm going to say that to that, or like trying to keep a tally of what you need to respond to, especially if you all are having a conflict about something. But if you just sit and listen and just hear it all out, then make the effort to respond to that, things will go much better. Because oftentimes you might be getting ready to respond and attack them about something that they mentioned, but later on in their conversation they'll get to that point, they'll cover it. So that's something that's important, and communication is always talking about it, all marriage events, everything. So it's super, super important, and it takes years to work on it. So like y'all were saying, y'all been in the game 24 years, and we've only been in going on 4 years, and it is a continual work in progress.
Yes, at all times.
Yeah, and one last thing I would say is, Monique and I also try to be like practical with it. So I remember one time, I don't know if it was 2 nights in a row, but definitely 2 nights in the same week. Monique and I were going to bed, right? So when I'm getting ready for bed, I'm going to sleep. And I remember I put my head down on my pillow, and then Monique turns over and she goes, "So," and I was like, she's legit trying to have a real conversation right now, and I am like done tired, and so it's not always, possible to like schedule a time to just like sit down, even just like maybe like for 10 or 15 minutes, but if you know you want to talk to somebody, don't wait until. And so I think maybe it was like, okay, well, I know at least when he's going to bed, he has nothing to do, so he can talk now. I was like, I do have something to do. I do have something to do. I'm asleep.
You're not getting up. Yeah, you're before walls.
So yeah, so we just try to think more. So of course, like we work on listening and being a better listener, but also just try to keep in mind the practical things like timing and whatever else is going on.
I think more of my time. Like I said, I pray on the stuff that I do, but I kind of hold my stuff in, but her timing is like, I guess when it just comes, when she's unwinding, when she's unwinding, and I guess she have time to think about what she's gonna say, how she's gonna say it, then she come out and say it. So it's like sort of different with men, you know what I'm saying? It's like we going, like you said, we going to bed to lay down, that's what we're doing. When we're watching TV, that's what we're gonna do. And it seems like, I don't know how y'all time. Yeah, that's when y'all have questions. Y'all timing is always different from ours, but it's always about that time. So I understand what he's saying, but it's just like, I guess that women just bring it to us when they finish with everything and they got to unwind and it's on their mind to talk about it, then they got to just release it. But we also have to understand that we have to be, mindful of how they feel, because if they bring it to you that fast or that moment, it's really eating them up, it's really bothering them. So they really have to get it off. And it's our job to listen, understand, and respond, with the questions or the things you need to know about.
Even in the Carolina game, right?
Nope.
Halftime.
Halftime, you can do anything you want.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Here I go again. Tell us why it is so important for men to express how they are really feeling in the marriage.
So I think it's important because I remember this one time in particular, Monique was asking me, she was like, why have you been acting this kind of way? And I guess like I was being like really short and just being really abrasive and irritable. And she was like, well, why are you acting like, why you been acting like this? And I took a moment to think about it. I was like, well, I mean, I just been upset about X, Y, and Z. I can't remember what it was. And she was like, well, why don't you just tell me that?
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know. And it wasn't like I was purposely choosing not to tell her about it. I just kind of just got caught up, I guess, in the hustle and bustle of just trying to keep up with all my obligations and just trying to like push my worry to the side because like, well, I mean, I have to do it anyway. It's not like talking about it's not going to make it go away. Yeah. So I might as well just do it. So that's good because I do need to, handle my responsibilities, but I should also be aware of how it's affecting me and how it's making me feel, and just letting her know. And it's also like I'm still kind of getting used to being married to somebody. I was like, well, if I'm married to someone, that means like I always have somebody that I can share my feelings with.
Yes, that's good.
And so I'm like, oh, I can. It's like, I can do this now. I can share what I'm going through, what I'm feeling. So it's. I mean, I guess the short answer is you need to, like men, we need to be open with it because like. If we're not open, if we're not talking about our feelings, one, we're still having them, and two, they're still affecting not just us, but the people who are closest to us, our spouse.
Because she might not understand that if something is wrong with you, she could start thinking something else is wrong. Right. So she'll take it another level, and it's actually something simple.
Right.
So if you just say, okay, well, this is what's going on right now with me. Do you not know that's why she's here? Yeah, that's why I'm here. Yeah, to help them. If something's going on with Kenny, and I'm telling him, don't hold no feelings. Let me know what's going on. Because I can help you pull those things down. And I can help you, you know what I'm saying, solve it. Because it might be something that's heavy in the situation. And sometimes the men go through so much and they don't want to tell us. They're already the breadwinners in the family. And they always, people looking up to them to do a lot of things. And people also call on them to do things. And sometimes he might need, somebody to come in and say, hey, let me step in the gap. So let that be the wife, the one that steps in the gap when you need me. Because if it's a hard thing, I might could be the one that can answer that question. You know what I'm saying? If somebody's bothering you, I might can be the one to say, hey, I remember he was getting ready for his trial sermon because he's a preacher. And one of the ladies called him to tell him some things. And I kindly texted her and I said, hey, if there's any questions, any concerns, any issues, please direct it to me, his wife. And it was funny because she said, yes, Martina going to take care of her husband. Yes. I mean, I should be the one that protects him. I'm the one that covers him. When something comes, I'm supposed to block it. And so that's what the woman is for. That's what the wife is for. And I take that really serious. No matter who comes at him, hey, I got his back. Just like my kids. I have 3 girls. And I remember one time these girls was trying to come at one of the girls. And I'm like, if you're going to get one, you got to get 3. Because those 3 girls are going to always come together. I don't care if they're fussing in the house. I don't care if it's wrong or right in the house. But when somebody come up that one, those 3 girls are really going to come together. And that's how it is with us. If it was somebody coming at us or him, I'm right there to block it. Issues, feelings, concerns, problems, it doesn't matter what it is. I mean, everything that he has to go through, I'm the one that's supposed to slip in and make sure everything is all right. So that's why I always tell him, tell me your feelings. Let me know what's going on, because I can step in there anytime and make sure everything is all right.
And another thing to add about that too is if men don't share how they're feeling, we might not understand why they're not doing something or why they're acting a particular way. For example, if I've asked Juan, hey, can you wash the dishes or can you fold the clothes? And it's like 2 days and he hasn't done anything, I could get frustrated about that. Like, I already asked Juan to do that. But then if I ask him, how you doing, what's going on? If he's like often super stressed or super this or that about something, then I can give him more grace. Like, oh, okay, he's having a hard time about this. Let me support him in this and let me do the dishes or fold the clothes. So communicating your feelings gives your wife an opportunity to jump in and support, like you were mentioning, and then also it helps us not get so emotional or frustrated about situations because we now understand how you're really feeling about it.
Exactly. I have a question. If you start seeing a disconnection in a marriage, what should you immediately start doing?
I think it's important to just slow down and just stop. Then after that, praying together is super important. So sometimes, I think a lot of times couples can just get off track because God isn't the center anymore. So stopping everything, praying, and getting back in the Word, and rebuilding that foundation and being solid on that. And then evaluate what are these things that's impacting our marriage, that's just getting us off track and just off kilter, and eliminate the things that are possible to eliminate, and then, you know, come up with a plan on how to better navigate other things in life that can't be eliminated.
Yeah, and then to break it down even more, so when he said, you know, slow down, stop, and then before that, whoever notices the disconnect should communicate to the other person,
What you see, what they see.
there's exactly, like, I'm feeling disconnected. And Monique legit used those exact words. She was like, I'm feeling disconnected.
Like a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, a couple weeks ago. And what I had to do was put into practice what I was sharing a few minutes ago about not being offended by her saying there's disconnect. Like, what you mean you're feeling disconnected? You know, like, I'm right here. We're here together. You know, so I was like, okay, there's a disconnect. And then I was like, why might Monique be feeling disconnected? And I was just trying to, like, answer her own questions. Like, just try to already automatically just start trying to view things from her perspective. And so you just listen and then decide to work through whatever the disconnect is.
Yeah, that's a good logical how you said it, because it's like when you dropped everything, you know what I'm saying, and fed on what she was talking about, how you feeling, how she's feeling. That's what it's like when you get hungry. You got to feed that marriage, you know what I'm saying? Like the marriage is starving for something. So you got to go back and feed it, you know. It's tempting, it's wanting something. So you can look at what if she cried out to me like that's just a cry out, that's what I call it. Because if she says she's lacking in something, I got to put friends down, whatever it is that's got me blocked, I got to drop that and see what she's crying out for. You know, and that's what it boils down to. When the marriage is hungry, just feed it.
That's good.
That's powerful when you said cried out, because sometimes the man might not understand a woman is crying out. She might, sometimes it might not just be words. It could be a touch, a feeling, a rub. It could be anything, and she just wants your. So I can't say just presence. She just want that touch from you. Yeah, the attention. Yeah, from you at that time. So when you feel
sometimes
like
I want it too. Shit.
But you better cry before she do. You better tell her first.
Yeah, so it's whatever is needed at that time.
Right.
Because it could be anything, and a lot of times for a man, we already know it is that touch, it's that feeling. Okay, so Kenny told me, he was like, don't forget to initiate.
Exactly, the same thing she texts me while I'm gone. I want the same thing when I get to the house. You know, just pull the same stuff out.
Physical manifestation.
Physical manifestation. Exactly. Yes. I need it when I get to the door. There it is. That quick text.
Okay, say it.
Okay, what Monique says, hearts.
Hearts and little winky faces.
That's what I need to see. When I get out, I need to see the winky face.
Yeah. He always say, don't forget what you text me earlier that day.
Exactly.
And I be trying to, it's time to go to sleep. It's 8 o'clock. Right.
There you go.
The night is young.
Yeah. All right, guys, it's time to go. But is there anything that you guys can say to a dying marriage that's out there that we could put positive in and let them know not to give up on today?
Well, not only do you want your marriage to succeed, God is for your marriage as well. So just come back to the Lord. Find somebody who can give you sound biblical wisdom, because God is the creator of marriage and He's the healer of broken marriages.
Yes.
And I'll add, reading books is really important, and it's good because you can learn new things. So a book that we read after we were married was I Wish I Would Have Known Before I Got Married. So that book was really good because it gives you opportunity to read. It's a couple pages, and then at the end of each chapter there are a couple questions that you can work through with your spouse. And so that just gives you an opportunity to kind of see things from a different perspective, and it absolutely helps if you maybe have gotten married a long time ago, or maybe didn't go through premarital counseling, but it just gives you a fresh perspective. Oh, this is why they feel this way, or I've never thought about it like this. And that book is really good, I believe.
Gary Chapman, he's the author of the five love languages.
Yeah, okay. So I would recommend you read that, and then just know that God is for marriage. Just like Juan was saying, like, if you don't feel like anybody else is in your corner, God's definitely in your corner, because He created marriage. Marriage is awesome, and He wants you to thrive in your marriage. And also, don't be afraid to seek actual counseling. Like, you can go beyond your church and pastoral counseling. You can seek licensed counselors and licensed therapists to sit down and talk it out with your spouse. And even if your spouse doesn't show up, you go. God can give you some assignments to work on, and then that could impact your marriage as well. So I pray that you all have blessed marriages. Thank you all so much for inviting us.
Well, I actually have a couple more things, some nuggets.
Okay.
One thing that Monique and I, we have done, even since before we were married, we would go to like relationship events or things like that. And it's not necessarily just because we were having problems, it's because like we know you constantly need
Strength.
you constantly need strength, encouragement, you know, a tune-up every now and then. Like you take your car to get tuned up. Somebody else put it like, I think Gary Chapman, he was saying like, so many people find success in their careers, but they have horrible marriages. And a lot of it is because like you're constantly getting trained in your career, but you're not constantly getting trained in your marriage because for whatever reason we think it's supposed to just happen because we're in love, and that's not the case. And like I said, it's not just because we have a problem. Like my sister invited me to invited us to a marriage conference, and we went just because that's just what we do. We make it part of our, you know, everyday thing, of our ongoing thing, to just make sure we're always catering to and focusing specifically on our marriage, to just keep it tight, keep it together.
Great, thank you. All right, that lets us know that knowledge is powerful. So make sure you get knowledge in your marriage. And thank you so much for joining us on Keeping It Together, Marriage 101.
Till next time.
Bye.